So one of the things that we have seen in our accelerator program, the Federal Business Accelerator program, is companies that come to us always ask about how do they get the perfect idea for their business, whether it be small business, home business, maybe it's a startup which is going to be venture funded, any kind of business. And what I always get amazed about is when people go out online and search for the best business idea and they see somebody come up with like seven best business ideas or 10 best business ideas or 99 best business ideas, they look at them and try to get inspiration from that. I'm here to tell you, stop that crap. Most of those ideas do not work. It's not really set up properly. And I know this because I've been involved in helping companies grow. I've had many of my companies, I have my accelerator. So I see, how ideas get generated and what kind of ideas really work and what kind of ideas do not work. So rather than give you the top 10 best ideas or, the top 100 best ideas, what we are going to do today is we're going to talk about how do you create the best ideas which have maximum chance of success for you personally, not for anybody else. So the best idea for me may not be the best idea for you. And you're going to see that once you see how we are coming about with this whole process of generating the best idea. So let's get started. My name is Nitin Pradhan, and I've been an entrepreneur. I've been a government executive. I've worked with the Obama administration. I've worked with Silicon Valley companies. So I have a lot of things that I've done. If you want to get to know more about me, just go to LinkedIn, search for me, and we'll get started. The first thing I will tell you when you're going to go out and build a business and you're looking at creating a great idea is to look at the problem itself that you're trying to solve. Make sure that you're solving a real problem, a problem that's intense. So let me give you an example. Let's assume that you are trying to start a Chinese restaurant. And let's say you're in a particular part of US where you plan to start this Chinese restaurant. Now, of course, if there are 30 Chinese restaurants on the street that you want to start your Chinese restaurant, you're probably not going to be solving any burning problem. The burning problem you're trying to solve is to make sure that Chinese food, high quality Chinese food, is available in the neighborhood. Now, if there are already 30 such Chinese restaurants there, what's the chance that you're solving a real problem? Because the problem may already be solved. In fact, it might be oversolved. So make sure that you're solving a real problem. Let me give you another example. So one of the things I've done is to help Zoom, the Zoom video conferencing company, grow in the federal sector. And when we started looking at selling Zoom in the federal government, there was this product called Skype, which was available free. And so wherever we went, the first question we got was, why should we buy a product which we get for free? Because Skype was free yet. And our answer to that is, yes, Skype is free, but nobody really uses Skype because the quality and the ease of use of that Skype system was very, very poor. And Zoom was just a phenomenal experience, high quality video conferencing, very cheap. That was one thing that we are trying to sell. The other thing that we are trying to sell was, at that time, companies had these big video conferencing rooms and they had millions of dollars worth of equipment for this video conferencing. But the problem with that whole setup was most people had no clue how to use that video conferencing setup. And so it occupied the room. It cost a lot of money, yet when it came to actually doing video conferencing, nobody was able to do it. So we were able to sell, Zoom, which was low cost, high quality, easy to use. There was a very specific problem that we are trying to solve. And so I keep on telling my companies, solve a real intense problem. Do not try to solve a problem which does not exist. It's very difficult to actually go out and actually make people buy a product that does not have a real problem. Now, I want to give you one more example here. and that's the intensity of the problem. Remember, if the problem is intense, people are willing to pay a large amount of money. If the problem is not intense, people are not willing to pay a large amount of money. Let me give you an example. Let's say you are a medical doctor or researcher and you have a brilliant plan to solve cancer. Now, as you know, cancer is a dreaded disease. People are trying to solve it. People who get it are very scared. It's an intense problem. So, if you can actually solve it, people will pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to solve that problem. But on the other hand, let's say you're a researcher and you're trying to solve this problem of a person sneezing. Yes, sneezing is annoying, but it's not an intense problem. Let's say you even if came up with a problem solution for sneezing, it's not that you will be able to charge millions of dollars. Maybe you'll be able to solve pennies, and not many people are going to buy that product. So again, the first thing that I will tell you is make sure that you're solving a real problem, an intense problem, a global problem. So that's what I would say you start off with. Now, let's say you have found a problem that is intense, that's real, and now you're looking at actually starting that company in that area. The next thing you need to look at is the quality of the solution you're planning to provide. So let me go back to the examples that I gave earlier. Let's say you're Zoom, and let's say you're trying to solve this problem of video conferencing. And let's assume that Skype, which is the existing product, is not really up to the mark. But if your product is not doing well, if your product is not really, really great, then the incremental advantage, the vectors of differentiation, as we call it, are not going to be that large. And what we say always is you need to have a large vector of differentiation right in the beginning. And that differentiation with competition needs to keep on increasing. So your product needs to become better at an incremental rate compared to competition. And so that's the quality of solution that we are looking at. Now, again, we are talking about trying to solve cancer. Let's assume you have got some solution for cancer, but it's effective in only very small percentage of people, or it doesn't save a lot of lives. It gives only months more in terms of additional life. Those are sort of partial solutions. Will people pay for it? Probably. But if you have a clean solution, if you have a solution that's going to be highly impactful, where the quality of solution is going to be great, then you are going to have a really good success. Now, let me go back to the Chinese restaurant example. Let's say there are 30 Chinese restaurants on that particular street, and you decide that you wanted to still start a Chinese restaurant there, even though there's competition. If there's something very unique, let's say you have a vegan Chinese restaurant, or if you have a Chinese restaurant where it's just takeaway kind of food and the cost is very low, but the quality is very high. Let's say there is a clear vector of differentiation, then perhaps you might be able to actually win and actually grow your business there. But again, as I said, the first thing you need to do is to look at, the real problem, an intense problem. And then the second thing you need to look at is the quality of solution you're planning to provide. The next thing and the final thing I want to say on this quality of solution, it does not help that you think that the problem is really big and you think that the solution is really big. What you need to do is to poll people who are going to be potential customers and see whether they accept what you're saying. So you need to target customers whom you're trying to sell. And then you need to ask them, do you think this is a real problem? How much are you willing to pay? And actually get frank feedback. Now, one thing I will tell you, just because somebody says, yeah, this is a big problem, and yeah, we will buy it, it's a big step from that to actually somebody putting their money and buying. But at least if people say, yes, it's a big problem, and yes, we will buy, then at least you're halfway through there. Then the ultimate test is whether they actually buy. That's a different complex problem in itself. But This is something which I will tell you, quality of solution matters. And if you can find a high quality solution at a reasonable price, you are going to do very well. The next thing that we tell our companies to look at when they're looking at, sort of improving their ideation, their idea process, is to look at the scope and the scale of the problem. So, scope and scale are really, really different. Scale is really the magnitude of the problem. Scope is the boundaries of the problem. Sort of let us go back to the examples that I've been giving you. So, for example, if you're looking at Chinese restaurant, you know, if you're looking at scale, you're really looking at who within that region is capable of buying from your restaurant. That's really the scale that you're looking at. Is it going to be just your zip code? Is it going to be neighboring zip codes? Is it going to be that entire community or county? How are you really going to manage that? That is really, the scale of the problem you're trying to solve. Now, when you look at scope, it's really the boundaries of that problem. So, are you really looking at, for example, only people who are interested in vegan Chinese? Now, that's a boundary that you have sort of put together and really focused on that particular activity. Now, sort of make it more clearer, let me go back and talk about the cancer example that we are doing. So, cancer comes in many forms and formats. Some cancers are very, very aggressive and with a very low rate of survival. And one of that is pancreatic cancer. So let's say you're trying to solve this problem of cancer and you're really looking at intensity of the problem. Perhaps you might look at not only cancer, which is really a large scale problem, but within that you sort of scope it out and say, I'm going to go after only trying to solve pancreatic cancer. And that's what I'm going to focus on because that's the most dangerous. That's the one that quickly takes lives. So that's something which you want to look at. So again, you need to look at the scale and scope of problem. Clearly define the scale of the problem that you're going to solve, and then look at the scope of problem that you're going to solve. These things sort of clarify your solution. This allows you to actually build a better solution than just sort of straying here and there. Remember, it's better to solve the problem and have a great solution for fewer people than sort of have an half-hearted solution for all kinds of people. People want to have really crisp solution. And so the narrower the solution, the cleaner the solution, the more accurate the solution, the more intensely solving quality of that solution is going to help you. So let's assume now you have a really high quality problem. You have a high quality solution. You're sort of scoping out the size and scale of the problem and solution. So you have all of these things in place. Now, the one thing which I will tell you is do not start your business if you don't have these three things. And the three things that I'm talking about is experience, expertise, and passion and interest. These three things you absolutely need to have if you're going to go out and start that business. So you need to have the expertise in that particular business or area. You need to have the experience in that area. And then finally, you need to have the passion and interest. So let me go out and sort of apply that to some of the examples that we have been taking in. So let's look at the Chinese restaurant idea. So let's say I want to start a Chinese restaurant. Do I have any experience in creating and establishing Chinese restaurants? Absolutely not. Do I know how to cook great Chinese food? Absolutely not. In fact, if I cook Chinese food, I'm sure even I won't eat my own Chinese food, leave alone other people eating it. So clearly that's not there. And do I have any passion to actually go out and start a restaurant or cook Chinese food? Absolutely not. So I'm not a cat person with the right kind of mentality to go out and start this Chinese restaurant. Now, let me give you another example relating to cancer treatment. Do I have any experience in doing research around cancer? Absolutely not. Do I have any expertise? Absolutely not. Do I have any interest? Absolutely not. I generally want a solution there, but I'm not the kind of guy who can actually build that solution. So this is very important. You need to have the expertise, you need to have the experience, and you need to have the passion. And one thing again, I will tell you, it's not that you internally feel you have these three things. You need to get it validated and you need to get it acknowledged. So you need to talk to your friends and family and see what they think about your idea and what they think about your ability to succeed. Do they think you have the experience? Do they think you have the expertise? Do they think you have the interest and passion to take it on? Now, remember, when you start a business, even if it's a home business, it's going to take time to evolve and grow. Of course, once you get the knack of it, it's really going to grow and you're probably going to make a lot of money on it. But still going to take time, it's going to take passion, it's going to take hard work. And so if you don't have the right passion and interest, if you don't have the expertise, if you don't have the experience, then you're going to give it off very early. And that's going to be a loss of time, effort, resources, not only of you, but your entire family. So again, keep this in mind. The next thing that I will tell you is once you have firmed up on your idea of what kind of business you're going to start, make sure that you have an angle onto the government. What do I mean by that? Make sure that your product or service that you're going to have has the ability to be sold to the government. And again, in government, there's local government, state government, federal government, there's tribal government, all kinds of government. But I would sort of hone in on the federal government. And the reason I say that is because when you have a business, you're going to run it long term. And to make a lot of money, you sort of need to run it not for 1 or 2 years, but maybe 5, 10, 20 years, 30 years. Actually, maybe even sell it later or maybe give it off to your children. They're going to grow it. So that's the way you're sort of going to grow this business. And during that time, you're going to have recessions. You may even have a depression. You may have pandemics. You may have all kinds of things. And therefore, the market conditions change. And what happens when the market conditions change? The private sector demand drops out. But one thing you can be absolutely sure that's not going to drop out is the government demand. The government will keep on buying, especially the federal government. The federal government actually, when there is times of crisis, for example, in the recent COVID example, the federal government actually increased its buying just to make sure that the economy was running well. And so if you have planned your program, your product, your service in such a manner that part of your business is selling to the government, especially the federal government, you are going to have long-term success. And there are lots of opportunities there because if you look at the federal government, it's buying trillions of dollars worth of products and services. They're sort of putting out contracts and grants and doing all kinds of stuff. And so one of the things which we are doing within our program is to train our companies how to work with the federal government, how to get federal contracts and grants, how to work with prime contractors. That's a very big skill set that you need to have. And remember, the federal government buys everything. They buy submarines, they buy, cloud services, they buy, food, they buy furniture, they buy toiletry, they can buy any and any kind of stuff. And so whatever business you have, there is potential to sell that to local government, state government, federal government. We have a program that I'm going to sort of put there on the side called the Federal Business Accelerator and the Federal Career Accelerator. That's something which will give you an idea how to sort of start working with the federal government. This is sort of essential in terms of how you grow because there is going to be a time somewhere in your business career when you are running your business, whether it be small business, home business, or any other kind of business, that there is going to be a recession. There is going to be some chance again that there's going to be some kind of pandemic. And at that time, you're going to need the government as a customer. And it's too late to actually go out and try to find government as a customer when the problems come, because that process to sort of work with the government is slightly long. And so what I suggest is as soon as you start looking at, small business or home business or whatever kind of business you do, make sure that you have a strategy for working with government. And if you need help, then check out the Federal Business and Career Accelerators 2 programs. That might be very, very worthwhile for you. And again, I will tell you this, just an example, our example of Zoom. So I started working with Zoom well before, COVID struck, and we were sort of helping them grow in the federal government. They started working with us. We sort of set up a lot of programs and other things with the federal government with them. And then COVID struck. And they were at the right time, at the right place. They had the necessary contracts, they had the necessary introductions, they had done a lot of work pre-COVID. And so when COVID struck, they grew not only in government, but in all the public sector, and they made a lot of money out of that. Again, would have been very difficult if they would have tried to get into the federal government at the time of COVID. That's why I say you need to go out and start looking at doing some of these things prior to any kind of calamity coming in. So plan that for your product and service, and plan that into your idea. So once you have an idea, have a specific process of how do you take that idea, how do you take that problem, how do you take that solution and apply it to the government, mainly the federal government, but you can again start store it and local governments. And, we sort of cover all of that within the Federal Accelerator Program. So that's something which I would highly recommend for the survival and growth of your company, especially in tough times, which are bound to happen. You're not going to be smoothly selling off for the next 30 years. Some calamity will happen. Please plan for it. One of the things I will tell you, and which I tell all our companies, whether they be home businesses, small businesses, or startups, or even federal contractors, is to sort of watch out for the impact of AI on their business, their products and services, their industry. You must keep a watch for that. So AI is sort of in its very infancy kind of stage. It's sort of a little baby is just getting born. It's entirely unclear at this stage how that baby will evolve into future products and services and what impact it's going to have on businesses. But there are some very real signs that the impact is going to be very, very high. And so if you have a business or you're starting an idea, make sure that you brainstorm with people who have expertise in AI on how AI might evolve and actually might impact your business. And make sure that you have steps that you have planned in your business plan of how to sort of react to this particular activity. Now, I will tell you that, and I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to give you an example of, let's say you're a CPA and you're trying to start an accounting firm, a small business accounting firm. Now, AI is going to be very, very impactful on your business. Yeah, it's going to be very impactful on the financial industry, the investment industry, the wealth management industry, the accounting industry. Yeah, it's going to have a huge impact. Exactly how is unclear. But one thing I can tell you, if you're a small business, if you are a home business, and if you sort of pay attention and you sort of bake in AI processes within your company rather than ice them on later on, you're going to be in a much better situation. Remember, there are these big, large accounting firms, will also start be looking at actually adding AI within their products and services. But they're going to have a much more difficult time because of their size, scope, and scale. But if you're a smaller company, you're probably going to have a much better opportunity to sort of bake in the AI products and services and AI capabilities within your own products and services. And so the important takeaway here, what I'm trying to tell you, is that if you have a product or service that you're thinking of, if you're looking at a problem and a solution, and if you think AI is going to have any impact within that area, you better figure out what it's going to be and start planning for it. Because you don't want to have a situation where something just comes out and it just impacts you very negatively. I'll give you an example. In our example of Chinese restaurant, let's assume that in the next 10 years we start getting robots which can be pre-programmed to actually make Chinese food. And they can be pre-programmed with various different programs to make various kinds of Chinese food. And the products would actually be very good, and their food that they create might be very good. Now, that could be a competition for you. And therefore, you need to look at how you're going to adapt. Are you going to sort of build off that? How are you going to manage that? Some of these things you need to look at. Now, of course, what I'm talking of in terms of robots is at least 5, 10 years away. But there are some areas, there are some industries where AI might start having an impact on your industry almost immediately with ChatGPT and some of these kind of products. So you need to be careful. You need to be understanding of this. You need to talk to expert and make sure that when you're looking at a problem, when you're looking at a solution, you need to look at the AI impact. And this is going to be a really big issue when it comes to research around cancer and drug delivery and drug discovery. AI is going to play a huge role. It's already playing a huge role. And so, if you're sort of in that space and if you're not looking at AI and its impact, that can create a huge problem for you. So, that's just a word of caution when you're looking at products and services, when you're looking at problems and solution. Check out the AI impact and plan for it. The last thing that I'm going to tell you in this program of creating the best ideas for your business, whether it be home business, small business, startup ideas, whatever areas that you're looking at, is the importance of process. Remember, the ideation, the farming of ideas is just the first step. Taking that idea all the way into a successful business, there are multiple steps there. And that's the process that you need to understand. And what I've seen is many business owners, whether they be small or large business owners, or whether they be entrepreneurs, do not understand this process, do not follow this process, and they fail because they don't understand this. And so, what we did when we created our program, the ScaleUP USA program, that sort of I'll mention on the side here, we have a program for small business incubation. And it's an online program. It's a very low cost program. It sort of walks you through all the steps that you need to take and how you take them. So that's something which I would encourage you to take if you think you're not following the steps. It's much better that you spend a couple of hours and actually understand the process and follow it and do well, rather than you get sort of upsided by not following some process and actually losing out a whole lot of time, effort, and money, as well as resources from friends and family. So that's something which I would definitely ask you to look at. I'm sort of going to go out and put the process description on the side here of the video so you can look at it. So again, in conclusion, finding a great product idea or a service idea, there is a process. We sort of laid out that process for ideation. But then when you have that idea, to take that idea into a successful business is an even longer process. You need to understand that. So take a look at it. And we have also added a couple of resources here. As I mentioned, we have the small business incubator resource that's sort of mentioned here. There's the federal business accelerator resource. There's the federal career accelerator resource. So there are a whole bunch of things here that are available to you. Make use of it and grow into a successful business. And absolutely leave your comment below into the description below in the comment section. Talk about what kind of products you're looking at developing or services you're looking at developing. Talk about your thought process so others can also learn from it. And definitely, connect with me and follow me on LinkedIn. I put out a lot of posts and other things there. So definitely reach out to me there, connect with me there, and I will also keep a lookout at what you guys are doing. And wherever I feel I have something to contribute, I will contribute to your posts or, your comments. So all the best. And I look forward to seeing you into a very successful business. Thank you so much for spending the time with me. And thank you again for the privilege of your time. I know time is precious. I know you spent some time looking at and watching this video. I very much appreciate it. Thank you again.